Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the 7th episode of the World History and Geography GCast as presented by Gibsonian Institute. So, as our last episode indicated, we are finally drawing a close to this super mega unit that we've been going on for about a month and a half on. As I mentioned when we first introduced this unit, the culminating activity will be a Salon project. So Salon, as you should recall from the reading, was a sort of European cafe meeting place that would be around Western Europe for philosophers to meet and just talk about problems and ideas. So in a short minute, I'm going to introduce all the possible figures that you can embody and give you all the parameters and outline the tasks that you will be doing for this project. So the project, however, will be broken out into 3 parts. We're going to go one by one before we move on to, we're going to make sure we've got the first one done and dusted before we go on to the second part. Same with the second part, we won't go on to the third part until we're all good on the second part. So we're going to break it down into parts and make sure we've got this understood correctly. Today's activity is going to involve picking your philosopher or key figure from the time period and explaining how you got to picking. The draft style is first come, first serve. So if you are an early riser and you're viewing this early in the morning, you'll have first dibs at whichever you would like. For those of you that sleep in a little bit, you're going to have to see what's left over to pick from. There are quite a few to pick from, and we'll go over that as I start to introduce the topics. So let's start getting into it here. All of this, of course, will be available on Google Classroom, but I'm going to go over it right now with you. As you can see from the onset, here are our, I would say several, but I would undersell it, 68 possibilities for the Enlightenment project here, for the Salon project. One thing you should notice, I do remember, I recall the girls asking if there was going to be more female options that we'll see when talking about this project. I've tried to find as many as possible so that you can kind of see these models for yourself. So the women figures are italicized. My top picks are bolded. All right, so those should be the ones that I think are one of the most interesting ones. So pretty evenly spread. So what you're going to do, of course, looking from this list, maybe do a little bit of research. Don't just start picking someone based on their name. Most of these should be familiar. People like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, of course, we should know. We didn't get into as many details on a lot of these people like Bernard de Fontenelle or Denis Diderot. And some of the ones down here like Samuel Johnson and George Berkeley. So look into a couple of these, especially if you're coming across this later in the day, so that you have enough options and that you know what you're looking at. So these are the many options that you'll have for this project. So this is going to be the number one thing we've got to get accomplished today, is to figure out who you want. So you'll notice that some of these will be enlightened monarchs or figures from a monarchy, such as Joseph of Austria, Frederick of Prussia, of course, we talked about. Prince Elizabeth of Bohemia is a solid pick as well. Now, breaking down the way the grade will be distributed. I mentioned there's 3 parts. The first part that we're looking at today and tomorrow will be the background research. So that'll be a total of 30 points. Involve a place mark that I'll get into a second, and a biographical sketch. All right, so the place mark, if we continue to scroll down right here, will include the character's name with dates of birth, death, and the country of origin. Pretty straightforward. You're going to write a quote from the character underneath their name, not your name, you being you are now this person. So if you're Desiderius Erasmus, you're putting Desiderius Erasmus at the top. Then the date of birth and the date of your death and the country you are from. And then the quote, that should be a really strong quote that really kind of gets at this person's philosophy. Then you should draw a symbol or a picture that represents something important to this person's life and work. And then the rest of the room that'll be on there should be words that, ideas, quotes, things that show, represent what this person was about. All right, so that is the place tag or the place card portion. And then the biographical sketch, we're going to get into more details on Friday. So I'll flash this on the screen so that you see what you're looking at. But I'll talk more in details about what I'm looking for in here. But if you feel that you've got the place mark done and accomplished very easily, you can by all means move on to this. If not, wait for my instructions tomorrow about that. So, but just keeping with what I'm expecting today, I would like, or we need to have accomplished the selection of one of these 68 figures, and then on Classroom you'll see that there's a post where I'm just simply looking for who did you pick and why did you pick him, and it should be a little bit of a response. It shouldn't just be I picked this person because they had a cool name. I mean, that I'm sure that's a possibility, but dig deeper than that. So do a little bit of research. Why was Montesquieu cool, or Cesare Beccaria? All right, so there's a lot of really good ones here. 68 is a decent list. I'm not asking you to go through all of them, obviously, but maybe research 3 or 4, maybe even 5. I know some of our more communist-leaning classmates might be energized to see Karl Marx on the list. We've got Americans such as Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Jefferson, so there should be something here for everyone. Look around, really get familiar with it. I'm going to post a very, very good resource that we're going to be using a lot with this project, the Stanford Philosophers Encyclopedia. So I'll post that, and or Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophers, I believe, is the actual name of it. Regardless, it's a incredible resource. So if you want just a little bit on each of these people, just search, or a little bit on some of these people, just search their name and you'll find them in there. I'll post that in the Classroom link as well. All right. So if there's no questions, or if you do have questions, make sure you contact me either through the office hours, 12:30 to 1. There is email. Make sure it's the sjfschool.us, and you should be using your sjfschool.us account as well. That way we can have a good back and forth, and that there's no flagging or any interruption in the email sending. Or, of course, you can put it in the comments of the video or the comments on Classroom. So I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone's picking. And again, it's first come, first serve. There are more instructions on that sheet to show what that looks like. In fact, here, I'll pop it open real quick for us so that you know what it looks like. All right, so Control F, search and see if the person's name has already been chosen. If there's 2 students with that person, pick a different one. Go back to Google Classroom and continue and complete the work. I don't want you messing with this with someone else's pick. So this is the honor system. Remember, I can see changes in Google Drive, so don't mess with this, and you don't have to worry about this 50% off. This is just there in case, but I don't imagine we would need it. So find your name, pick your person, put it in there. All right. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Other than that, I look forward